All right, everybody, it's Friday, August 19th. I'm back in New York City. Just got back. Well, today we had a little pullback in the market, and this is another one of these Monetarist going crazy episodes. This is not related to what I see in September as like a real condition for a pullback, which is, as I've been telling you guys, that is going to be the September quarterly corporate tax payment, and that's going to be temporary. That could last a few weeks, and then we move on from that. But here's the thing, and I find it, I find it funny. I'm sorry, because these monetarists, they're begging the Fed for a pivot, signs of a pivot. Please, Fed, give us a sign of a pivot. Because, of course, for them, it's all about monetary policy. They are monetarist zombies. That's the only way they see the world. And it's like, please. And then I think they're having their Jackson Hole symposium, and the comments coming out of there, no pivot. No pivot! Oh, what are we gonna do now? We better sell. So, I've been into these metaphors recently, right? I've been talking about the weather and the hurricane and all this other stuff. So here's another one for you. A metaphor to describe these monetarist zombies. They're in the desert dying of thirst, begging the Fed for some water. Fed, please, we're dying of thirst, when they're literally kneeling in front of this luscious, filled up oasis of water. Okay, and that's the fiscal flows, right? That's the swimming pool. They're literally, but they don't see it. They don't see it. They just see the Fed God, and they're praying, they're begging on their knees, the Fed God, please give us a pivot. Give us a pivot. Oh, humanity, please give us a pivot. And the Fed God is no pivot. No pivot. And what are we going to do? We just better sell. And not only is this oasis filled up with water, and it's been filling up with water. Yeah, it was really dry in April and May. Like it got sucked down. There was no water then. All right, there was no water. Like, you look at that thing, and like if you needed water, even I needed water. Go back and watch my videos. I'm saying I'm waiting for net positive fiscal flows. It took a long time for the spigot, to get opened up and to start to flow. But then once it started to flow, I mean, that oasis filled up. They don't see that, okay? And their brains are not capable of seeing that. Their brains are just, it's either a case of being brainwashed, or just they're wired in a certain way where it's that one thing, the central bank, that's the God. That's God, okay? And God could be very harsh sometimes. And God is being harsh to them. That's their belief. That's their Bible. Meanwhile, the oasis is filling up. And here's the really funny part about the whole metaphor, the whole thing, is that when the Fed, does what is in their minds the worst possible thing, like another dagger in the heart, which is a rate hike, it's literally taking a hose and pumping more water into the oasis through, the interest channel. Like I've been telling you guys, like we see it now in the numbers, that the fiscal flows are increasing because of the rate increases. And so they're there kneeling, begging the Fed God for more, for water, for anything, a little drop. And the Fed is like, no, no, no. But in the meantime, the Fed's, and if the Fed really understood, like religious people, when they talk about God, God is all-knowing, God is omniscient, right? And sometimes they wonder, is God like some kind of sick dude who's playing jokes on everybody? Because, like, in this case, the Fed would be like a sick god, because if they knew, but they don't know, because the Fed is populated with these economists, mainstream economists, and they all see the same thing. But if they knew, right, how funny would that be? Like, they know they're filling up the oasis when these guys are all kneeling and begging for water, and it's like, here it is, fools. It's coming at you, and you don't even see it. No, that's not happening, because the Fed gods, you know, they're of the same, you know, the same mentality, the same belief system. So anyway, that's basically what's been going on. Now, I think that, you know, the problem is that we got this September period. I'm not joking about that, all right? That, to me, that's real. I mean, that the oasis is going to get drained out. Not totally, but, you know, the water level is going to go down, and there's going to be less water to go around. And so, you know, then it'll refill back up, because it's a net positive flow, okay? The only way we would have a constant negative flow, like just constant draining, would be if the government were running a surplus like every single month, or nearly every single month, where that thing couldn't really fill up. But it's not the case. Now, I admit that the flow is not the same that we had last year, and, you know, in the pandemic 2020. No, of course, and I've been telling you guys that. So, you know, I'm not saying the flow is coming out in a trickle. It's not, because we're still talking about, you know, $1 trillion deficit, maybe slightly more, 1.1 trillion. I mean, before the pandemic, anyone who would have talked about $1 trillion deficit, they would have been like, oh my God, what, you know, that's crazy. But now it's like commonplace. And even we were saying, oh, the deficit is so small now, right? But you have to put everything into perspective. That's still a decent amount of net addition to the financial balances of the economy. You just can't sell when that is happening, all right? You have to just be a little bit more patient, because we're not in this supercharged environment like we were last year with stimulus after stimulus. We're not in that environment, but that doesn't mean, you know, dump your portfolio or dump your stocks. I mean, if you're nimble and I don't trade my stock portfolio. I use dips to, you know, market corrections to add to it and build, you know, wealth over time. I still trade Forex. By the way, dollar is strong. And a lot of people have been asking me about the dollar. And, you know, the U.S. is a major net exporter of petroleum now. That's huge. That's a huge bullish factor. And the second thing is, you know, we have seen a big shrinkage in the deficit. So net less dollar creation. Supply been shrinking. So those factors, and then there's always, you know, the whole narrative, you know, driven buying. You know, the Fed's hawkish. Well, you know, Turkey's been hawkish, and Argentina's been hawkish, but, you know, it doesn't seem to help those countries, but it helps the dollar when the Fed is hawkish. So you see the disconnect, and it's just like they contradict each other. But it is a factor, and it's a big factor, that the U.S. is a huge net exporter of petroleum. I mean, there's no getting around that. That is big, and that's what's supporting the dollar. So anyway, I was saying, I trade Forex, trade futures. Stocks I use. I think stock investing is a wonderful, wonderful way to build wealth over time. I wish they should teach this in the schools to kids. It's not hard. You know, kids, they're young. They got their whole lives ahead of them. They can put away whatever, $50 a month, $100 if they're working or a part-time job or whatever, if they get an allowance or something, or even after they get out of school, right? They're still young. And just consistently do it. And then, you know, if you can tweak the approach to where when the market comes down and you know, everybody panics, right? It's always going to be the same people, like the monetarist zombies, and that's everybody basically. You go in, you buy. So that's the story. That's the story. Again, what I've been trying to impress on you guys is knowledge gives you confidence. And you understand. I just flew in, right? I was in Pensacola. I just flew in back to New York. We had a lot of turbulence on coming back for some reason. A lot of turbulence. Doesn't bother me. I'm not a pilot, but it doesn't bother me. But I heard people like, oh God, no, what's happening here? Pilot, very cool. They know what it is. If you know, you don't get scared. You don't get frightened. There's an explanation. You understand it. There may be a time to get scared and get frightened, like if both. I gave you that story when we lost one of the engines when I was coming back once from Miami. Thank God we didn't lose two. But yeah, in certain cases, it's okay to be scared, to be frightened. But we're not in that right now. We're not in that right now, and we're certainly not in a situation to sell out everything. If you want to trade the correction into, you know, the September, fine, no problem if you're a trader. But other than that, you know, I use it to, I bought actually even some Apple stock today. All right, folks, that's it for today. I'm back in New York. We're going to be doing the regular updates. Bye.